Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome back to my shop. Today I want to talk about wooden screw clamps. Yes, these may seem basic, and why would I be doing a video about something so simple, but they are a very misunderstood tool, and I want to dive into this and show how useful these can be, as well as dispel a few myths about them. Let's take a look. Now in my collection I have probably, 30 or 40 of these because you can never have too many clamps. And I'm always finding different ones that I really like. They're just small and cute, or they're big and beefy, or they're wooden, and there's so many things about them that I absolutely love. Now if you're new to Wood by Wright, I do a tool talk like this every Thursday where I pick out some particular tool, something that people don't know as much about, or something they think they know a lot about, but there are a lot more things you can learn about it. And I'll do a little more detailed video on that. Now these videos will soon be moving over to Wood by Wright 2, as all of the talking videos will eventually go over to Wood by Wright 2, and Wood by Wright 1 will eventually be just the artistic videos where people can sit and watch them. That's what most people tend to like, but I like providing a lot of information. So yeah, wooden hand screws. Now some people are going to call them Jorgensen clamps, some people are going to call them hand screws, some people are going to call them hand clamps. There's a pile of names out there, and I really don't want to go into that because as soon as I start saying they are one particular name, I'm going to start a bunch of arguments. So generally I refer to them as hand screw clamps, but you're going to find all sorts of weird names for them. I generally don't refer to them as Jorgensen clamps, but Jorgensen was a company that made clamps, and they were renowned for their hand screw clamps, so the name Jorgensen has kind of become synonymous with these clamps. Generally they come in two different types. You have your metal screw, which has a handle on either side, and rotating these in the same direction will cause the jaws to open parallel, and they have the exact same action one way or the other. The other style are the old wooden ones, and these, one handle stays fixed and is held to this jaw, and the other handle is open here. And so this second handle here has just a dead end here that then runs into this and then pushes into the other jaw, creating that force. So this top one is separating them by a specific amount, and then this one here is just applying the force to let them squeeze down in. One of the biggest mistakes that most people have when they use them is they'll screw one, and then they'll screw the other one, and they'll try to clamp something down doing that, and you always run into problems with it pinching at one point or not adding enough pressure altogether. What you actually want to do is keep these parallel and then rotate them. And so keep one hand perfectly still and let the other one rotate around, and then you can get them perfectly parallel, and you can get a really nice clamping pressure all the way along the jaw force. And this will allow you to not only pinch something up here, but also down in here, and get an even pressure all the way along two boards you're clamping together. Now one of the nice things about that is it gives you a larger surface area that you're actually applying pressure to. You're not just applying pressure at the pads up on the tip like you were with a lot of other clamps, your C-clamps and such, but you're actually having this whole surface area that is in contact with the wood and crushing it together. So when actually clamping something, you want to put it down in there, and then you want to rotate both of them together until you get a nice parallel surface all the way down, and then the one on the top, I'm just going to turn that one just a little bit, and that little bit of movement is now going to clamp it tightly all the way along that joint. And that way I can make sure that I can't move this one is solid, and I've got a really nice pressure all the way along because I kept these jaws parallel. And as much as I may use these for clamping things up for gluing, I tend to use them more as tools for holding things. Now you may have noticed I don't have a bandsaw in this shop. I used to have a bandsaw, and anytime you're working with a small piece like this, you're having a dangerous time getting your fingers close to the blade. And that's where one of these really comes in handy, is you can lock it down in here, and now I can keep my fingers a long ways away from the blade. I can have a really strong connection to the piece, and I can let this work into the blade and do all my detail work, keeping my hands away and safe. Same thing as if I have a router table. If I'm working with a small piece, I'm going to put it in a hand clamp, and I'm going to use that on the router. That way I can keep my hands away from the work, and I have much more secure surface because this is more mass. There's less chance that it's going to throw this mass around as it would throwing this little piece around. Even with hand tools, sometimes you're trying to work on a small piece with a file or a rasp or even a saw, and it's just hard to hold on to something and work it down. What you can do is take one of these, put it into your vise, and lock that in place. So I'm only holding one half of the jaw down. I can take these little pieces then, and I can lock these down in place, and I now have a solid surface that's raised up, much easier to work at. I can grab a file and go to town and do my shaping on this, having it held nice and securely in position, and in a much more comfortable position than being down on the bench trying to do detail work. And if you've ever tried to put some small piece like that in the vise and doing some detail work around the vise and the whole bench, that's a pain. But then that brings me down to the idea of wooden screws. A lot of people are very worried about wooden screws. Are they strong enough? Are they going to break? And you can see here there's a couple places where the teeth are missing, and oh no, are these going to be strong enough? Yes, these are incredibly strong, and I will put this up against the steel screws any day. They will provide just as much force and are incredibly strong. And that's why I think I have more of the wooden screws than I do of the steel screws, because a lot of people don't want these as they aren't as functional. They don't feel as good as a steel screw, and people are worried about the wooden screws. As long as the threads on them are still decent and everything is in good shape, these are a great buy, and I use them all the time. Now you're going to come across these quite a bit at antique stores and resale stores and things like that, and I'm usually paying like 10 bucks a piece for the big ones, and for these little ones I'm usually paying like $5 a piece. But depending upon where you live, you'll probably see some very different prices. If I go out to the West Coast, I'm going to be seeing a lot more prices than this. If I go out to the East Coast, I may actually find them even cheaper than that, and sometimes I've gone to a garage sale and have a pile of them in the corner like, yeah, you want them, take them. So there you have it. These are just so much fun, and I've got a pile of them hanging from my ceiling. I use them all the time for all sorts of things. When I first got into woodworking, I had a lot of C-clamps, and anytime I needed to do small things like that, I use an F-clamp or a C-clamp. But now that I've gotten a collection of these, I use them more and more and more, and they provide an incredible amount of force over a large area and are a phenomenal clamp once you get to use them. And then being able to have the small hand capability of holding small pieces, they're a phenomenal tool. So definitely go take a look at it. If you're trying to find a place to find them, go to handtoolfinder.com. It's a site that I have set up that I have listed all the places I know of with a map of the entire world of locations to buy tools, as well as a list of online sellers that I trust. So you can go there and find things like this, as well as there are collecting associations that will be selling these regularly at their meets. So definitely take a look on there and see if you can find something new. So I hope you like this. This is one of these topics that I absolutely love. These things are so much fun to play with, and they are an incredible workhorse once you get to know them. And once you start to understand how they function and what they're good for and how well do they work, you will be finding all sorts of uses for them around the shop. So definitely get yourself a good set of screw clamps and you'll be having a lot of fun. Now with a topic like this, I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I've left out or things that you may use them for differently. Let me know down below. I'd love to start a conversation about, oh, they're great for this, or I use them in this way. That is what I love about this. Reading down through the comments and you'll get a lot more ideas out there. Also, if you did like the video, please hit like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Those really do help out the channel, and thank you for that. So I think that's about it for now, and until next time, have a wonderful day. Dad joke book. Did you hear about the shipwreck? It was full of paint, and now all the sailors are marooned.